It's so simple to think about how one act can change everything, and yet I'm just one human being. It's so simple, and that the only thing that matters to me is something completely invisible that I believe with my whole heart to be true, and to know that it's called faith. It's so simple, and yet I go day by day believing in a Father who died on the cross for each and every sin committed, and that He loves each and every child like a father loves his son. It's so simple. So simple that all it takes is one canned encounter to create a life-changing memory that's accomplished by God through His unfailing charity, a word that's called grace that we don't deserve, though He'll always give as long as we'll serve on His team for life, as it's all that we need. For as long as we'll follow, He'll always lead. It's so simple. Who is standing in the way of you coming to God's presence day after day? Is it you or your issues or your point of view, your relationships or family, for all that you knew that you're holding back when He lives in you? His power flowing through your body made new. When I came to Christ, it just felt so right. Like I wanted to scream with all of my might because I was so pumped for a path for my life, knowing I no longer had to live in strife because He loved me and all that I am, knowing I'll never be perfect like a lamb, knowing I'll never be perfect. That's hard for me because knowing something to be true and accepting it are two very different things. And because I have a hard time with acceptance and all that I am, sometimes I need to remember that maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything, but maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can become who you were meant to be in the first place. Because although we can't be perfect, but we can be whole, we need to search for that place inside of our soul where we find who we are and who we were meant to be, so that we live the life of God's decree, so that we don't live in the darkest times of our lives, for that just feels like being stabbed with knives. Because let me tell you, growth is painful, change is painful, but nothing is as painful as staying stuck somewhere you don't belong. And that's where I stop and think that I'm just one person in need of a leader, just one person in need of some direction, just one person who was lost and needed to be found. Just one person. And because I was lost and then I was found, I can rejoice with all the sound from the hurt and the pain brewing inside of me because of my actions that caused me to be hating myself and all that I was. For I couldn't do right, and it was because I didn't have Christ fighting to back me up while I held onto one big empty cup, and I was thirsty and tried to fill it myself and didn't think anyone else could fill it himself because I didn't think that I needed to be saved. While God sat in heaven and constantly raved for my life to be His, that my heart would be whole, that I would decide for myself to give Him my soul because I did need saving, and He was there to save my life and was willing to spare those times I messed up and tried to fix them myself, when all He wanted is to fix them Himself, because He is the Lord God who created us. Who better to fix us when we've gone wrong? Who better to set us to rights again? Who better to love us through the fire and refine us into something beautiful and useful despite our wrongs? Because when we call on God's precious name, we will never ever be the same when we let God take away the pain. It's so simple.